Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Alya Khaira Nazhifa. I'm from Accounting Department, Andalas University. Welcome to my thesis presentation with the title of Factors Influencing Negative Perceptions of Internal Audit. First of all, I want to thank my supervisor, Ma'am Husna Roza, for guiding me until I can reach this stage. So, I hope you enjoy my presentation as much as I do. There are 5 chapters that I'm going to explain to you. The first is introduction, second is literature review, third is methodology, fourth is discussion, and the last one is conclusion and recommendation. First, introduction. Background. Establishing a strong internal audit function is a long-term and wholesome investment for most organizations because internal audit department can act as independent advisor for the board and senior management. Although there are numerous positive perceptions of internal audit, but still negative perceptions of internal audit are still emerging from both accounting and non-accounting business professionals. The survey by PricewaterhouseCoopers in 2017 stated that internal audit only adds 44% significant value. In view of numerous negative perceptions of internal audit and how it might affect the quality of internal audit function and the profession, this study seeks to assess factors influencing negative perception as a literature review. Problem statement. There is no available research that specifically explains why the negative perceptions of internal audit occur. This study therefore examines factors influencing negative perceptions of internal audit as a literature review. Objective of the study. The first is investigate the negative perceptions of internal audit by stakeholders, accounting, and non-accounting business professionals. The second is to increase the awareness of negative perceptions surrounding the internal audit so that the profession will be able to make changes based on the development of time. Third, to provide suggestions for improving the quality of internal audit function in order to combat the negative perceptions of internal audit. And the significance of the study. This study aims to increase the awareness of internal audit practitioners about the perceptions of internal audit itself in order to make continuous improvement of the internal audit function. The second is literature review. Theory of auditing. So, auditing is the accumulation and evaluation of evidence about information to determine and report on the degree of correspondence between the information and established criteria. There are 2 types of auditors that we know today. They are external auditor and internal auditor. And we focus on internal audit in this time. So, what is internal audit? Internal audit is an independent, objective assurance and consulting activity designed to add value and improve an organization's operations. And the third is role of internal audit. So, the role of internal audit is to help an organization to accomplish its objectives by bringing a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of corporate governance, enterprise risk management, and internal control. Because my title including the word of perception, so we need to know what is perception. So perception is the process by which we interpret the world around us, forming a mental representation of the environment. And the next is negative perceptions of internal audit. Although there are numerous academic and occupational study evidence that stated the benefits of internal audit, but some of them are still discussing about the negative perceptions of internal audit. So that is why my research exists. Third, Methodology. Research design. My research is using qualitative approach. Based on its definition, it attempts to gain insights into specific behavior experienced in a certain social phenomena through the subjective experiences of the participants by using descriptions and categories. It is exactly like what my research did. And for the research methodology, I'm using literature review. So literature review in this study is the form of research methodology rather than being the part of the research itself. It's different from my second chapter. And the type of literature review is descriptive review. So what is descriptive review? Descriptive reviews usually produce some quantification that often in the forms of frequency analysis, such as publication time, research methodology, and research outcomes, which I'm going to explain to you later. Research flow. In identification, this literature review is using 4 databases. They are Google Scholar, ScienceDirect, ResearchGate, and SSRN, search from 2012 until 2020. In screening, there are 8 duplication, which I'm going to exclude, and in eligibility, I also exclude some character, that is 8 journals and articles, that the publication year is less than 2012. Finally, in included, there are 30 journals about perceptions of internal audit, and I accept any research methodology used. So this literature review is using 30 journals about perceptions of internal audit as well as the expected improvement of internal audit. Fourth, discussion. Factors influencing negative perceptions of internal audit. The first is lack of value added by internal audit. Lance and Sarens in 2012 divided the questioning of the value of internal audit's work into 3 themes. The first is big gaps in practice when comparing the actual targeted scope of internal audit services. It is supported by the statement that internal audit is often over-promises and under-delivers and significant shortcomings of internal audit in meeting stakeholders' expectations. Second is the absence of clearly conveying value added to major stakeholders. It is supported by the statement that consulting and financial accounting companies are in disappointment towards internal audit's performance. And the last one is overly optimistic self-assessments by internal auditors. It is supported by the statement that self-perceptions and external perceptions about internal audit differ greatly. Still, in the lack of value added by internal audit, Ulrich et al. In 2017 study about the practitioners who perceive negative perceptions toward the profession indicate that internal audit function is not perceived as either influential or adding value to the organization. And internal audit function suggestions are less likely to be implemented by auditors. And the third is internal auditors feel more pressure to change or suppress their findings. Eventually, it is difficult for internal audit to add value if the internal audit function is not considered to be influential, or if auditors are unwilling to implement internal audit function suggestions. So that is why internal audit facing the lack of value added. Study by Carcelo in 2018, there are several reasons why internal audit is not effective in reduction of risk. Because this study is examining an additional way internal audit can add value by reduction in risk. First is many business communities do not highly support investing in internal auditing, and relevant stakeholders are generally dissatisfied with internal audit function, and internal audit is critically difficult to attract job applicants. These previous researches that I already explained are supported by PricewaterhouseCoopers survey in 2017 that state that internal audit adds significant value dropped from 56% in 2016 to only 44% in 2017, reaching the lowest in 5 years of the metric that they have been tracking. And unfortunately, half of the stakeholders who already received the value indicate that they still expect more value than they are currently receiving. The next factor is to whom internal audit is actually serving. Study by Lance and Sarens in 2012 is concerned that internal audit has no clear shift stakeholder. The first is internal audit tries to serve two masters. There are many conflicts when internal audit tries to serve two masters, which currently internal audit has multiple customers to serve. There are possibilities of substantial differences in what audit committees want, what the board wants, and what senior management wants. And the demands are more than internal audit is able to deliver, because the aim of internal audit at rendering assurance and consulting activities on governance, risk management, and control process, which are the goals that they may demand. And the more internal audit has no different shift stakeholder or boss and clear and realistic role, the more it claimed to be over-promising and under-delivering. Still, into whom internal audit is actually serving. Contrast study by Roza in 2013 that conducted study with experienced internal auditors results that internal auditors have clearly chosen their camp, which operate as a member of the management team rather than being the member of monitoring and oversight team. And these findings have serious implications that will result in the increase of opacity surrounding the governance rather than promoting a great transparency. The next factor is ineffectiveness of internal audit. Lance et al. In 2017 studied the relationship between chief audit executives and senior management and its relationship with internal audit effectiveness. So one condition that might affect the ineffectiveness of internal audit in organization is when there is a fewer moment of truth that will widen the expectation gaps. There is either expectations or senior management do not really want the internal audit function to do what it's supposed to do based on its professional standards. And self-reinforcing negative spiral that is significant in creating low level of internal audit effectiveness. Still, in ineffectiveness of internal audit, study by Shakil et al. In 2020 about the perceptions of external auditors regarding the role and effectiveness of internal audit function. The study stated that three main roles of internal audit function are not performed effectively by internal audit function. They include checking the compliance and evaluation of internal controls, risk management, and fraud risk management. And the corporate sector does not have right perception regarding the internal audit function. And internal audit function relies on how much liberty and control is given by the organization to becoming more effective. The next factor is negative image of internal audit. Obert and Mungunyuma stated that in their study, 78% of their respondents are agreed with the existence of negative perceptions of internal audit that consist of manager, section head, supervisors, and clerical staff. Internal audit is becoming an obvious enemy of financial statements, fraud, corruption, and money laundering. The study concluded that the negative perceptions come from those who benefit illegally from the organization, which top management are involved in the organization. The value of internal audit to meet stakeholders' expectations that will cause a loss of confidence in the internal audit. This issue could lead into a bad reputation of internal auditors from both management and workers. Still a negative image of internal audit, study by Lance and Sarens, they conclude a study about self-images of internal auditors that can be greatly different with external perceptions into 5 categories. The first one is police or watchdog. It is the basis of non-tolerance with the organization, making people afraid of internal audit as if everyone has bad intentions. The second is servant. It is the identity of lack of identity, downgrading, too modest, profiling themselves as an assistant. And the third one is consultant. And consulting is hard to achieve when internal auditors too focus on independence and objectivity. And the fourth one is doctor. Internal auditors pretending to be experts at many things that they can never be realized. And the last one is change agent. It is actually the positive perceptions of internal audit. It is the helpful self-image as positive characteristics that have the purpose to help in creating a unique and sustainable identity and supporting audit's pursuit to become more effective. The last factor is internal audit expectation gap. Study by Roza and Perron in 2018 stated that the different level of actual and expected role of internal audit gives the impression of internal audit as jack of all trades, but failed to clearly capture the internal audit's function core business role. And study by Setionira and Sulistiawati in 2019 stated that internal audit function has failed to meet stakeholders' expectations in the company. They stated that the role of internal auditors as supervisor has created an uncomfortable situation because of their presence in the company. And the watchdog role impacts the perception of internal audit as the enemy and less contribution to help to achieve the company's goal. And consultant role of internal auditor is not perceived well since the company demanded internal audit to be more focused on consulting activity rather than fraud detection. And lastly, the study conducted that internal audit is playing the smallest part in catalyst role. The company expects that internal audit will be able to guide management in identifying risks that might obstruct the achievement of company's goal. In addition, internal audit should be the change of agent, not as decision makers since it is the role of management. A study by Adafula in 2019 stated that internal audit work is not wide in financial reporting supply in Ghana as the internal audit expectation gap. Still in internal audit expectation gap, a contrast study by Lance in 2017 that studied how to measure internal audit effectiveness from the standpoint of meeting stakeholders' expectation. Meeting stakeholders' expectation as the measure of internal audit effectiveness can be misleading, since expectations are very widely in practice and stakeholders might demand very little of the internal audit function. And low level of internal audit function can render is the consequence of research constraints they have faced. This table contains journals and articles related to factors influencing negative perceptions of internal audit. There are 11 journals and articles. When there are many negative perceptions of internal audit, there must be positive perceptions of internal audit as well. So, study by Lance in 2015 points out the fifth self-image of internal auditors as change agent, which is aspirational. The same study by Sarens et al. In 2016 complement the metaphor internal audit self-image change agents as farmers, which have the same meaning. And study by Carcello et al. At 2018, reducing perceived risk and as the tool for internal auditor to demonstrate the value they add to an organization and secure sufficient resources for their function. And study by Abdurrahman et al. At 2020 showed that internal audit plays an important role in development and implementation of risk management. We're still in the positive perceptions of internal audit. Study by Ilrich and Ilrich in 2020 stated that internal audit is considered to be very important in establishing good corporate governance. And by Saputra and Yusuf in 2019 stated that internal audit can be conceptualized as one mechanism that can help management and the board of directors to manage risk. And study by Shakil et al. In 2020 showed that the external auditors believe when internal audit operated effectively, it helps an external audit by reducing the extent of substantive procedures performed by external auditors and will lower the audit fees. And Jackie and Yona in 2020 stated that the independence of internal audit function will result in promoting good corporate governance through the elimination of agency problems and providing an expected level of assurance to stakeholders by reducing inherent risk. This is the table with the compilation of journals and articles related to positive perceptions of internal audit, and there are 8 articles and journals. The impact of negative perceptions on internal audit. The first is recruiting challenge for the internal audit position. There are 4 studies that conducted this issue. They stated that negative perceptions toward the profession affected the job candidates and applicants in applying for internal audit position. And the next impact is unwilling to implement internal audit recommendations. CBOK practitioner survey showed that 54% of the participate chief audit executives had been asked on at least one occasion to suppress an important audit findings. These are the 2 main impact of the negative perceptions on internal audit that I found. So this is the journals and articles that related to the impact of negative perceptions on internal audit. In order to combat the negative perceptions on internal audit, I compiled some expected improvements of internal audit in this literature review. The first one is from Ilrich et al. In 2017, stated that internal audit profession should continuously improve the internal audit function in order to combat negative perceptions and increase its role in adding organizational value. Study by Chambers in 2015 stated that internal audit can fill the board's assurance by primarily or only reporting line to the chief audit executives should be to the independent element of the board. Alzeban at 2018 stated that reporting internal audit's work directly to the board will reduce the internal control weakness. Still in expected improvements of internal audit, the first one is Christ et al. At 2020 stated that the work of internal audit function is forced to realign with new objectives and risk. And study by Lewis et al. At 2020 stated that technological advances are indispensable for the establishment of an effective digital internal auditing system. And Betty and Sarens in 2020 stated that there are 3 ways of how digitalized business environments affect the internal audit function. Also, study by Roza at 2018 stated that competencies and independence become the core of internal audit quality researches. And Anggraini at 2020 stated that to produce good audit quality, there are several aspects which must be done by an internal auditor. And lastly, Farkas et al. At 2019 examined potential determinants of management agreements with internal auditors' recommendation of an interim assurance in judgment. This table is the compilation of journals and articles related to expected improvements of internal audit. The last one is conclusion and recommendation. Conclusion: this literature review has compiled some of the causes of the negative perceptions. The first one is lack of value added by internal audit. And the next is to whom internal audit is actually serving. The third is the ineffectiveness of internal audit. The fourth one is negative image of internal audit. And the last one is internal audit expectation gap. And these negative perceptions impact the internal audit itself. They are internal audit is facing recruiting challenge and unwilling to implement the internal audit suggestions. And positive perceptions are also included as the comparison as well as expected improvements of internal audit. And overall, internal auditors should be aware of the negative perceptions surrounding its profession. Recommendation: there are still some other factors influencing negative perceptions of internal audit that might not be included in the study, so future research can identify other factors. And perhaps not all perceptions are the same in every country, and research about internal audit is still limited in Indonesia. Future research can enrich studies about internal audit, especially about perceptions and expected improvements of internal audit function. That's all my thesis presentation. Thank you for watching till the end of the video. I hope you enjoy my presentation and see you on the Zoom meeting. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.